Sean has been a regular guest at our conferences. I think he has come every year since when? I think 3 years you're coming already?
Longer than that.
Or longer. To give us an update on what he's doing. He's trying to build.
One in November before the pandemic.
Even before the pandemic, so that's 2019. Yeah. Okay. He's building a billion-dollar company. It's taking time, but there are very positive evolutions in the last quarters. So give it up for Sean.
Everything okay? Does this work? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Brecht. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to everybody for coming this afternoon. And I'm the founder and CEO of Nanalysis Scientific. We make portable MRI machines for industrial applications, so pharma companies, food companies, petrochemical companies, advanced material companies. But we also have a vision to one day have an MRI machine that's application-specific and prevention-centric for human medical use as well. So we do seek safe harbor for forward-looking statements. So, we're really excited about the potential of our stock, even though obviously our stock price isn't very good today, and that's based on the fact that we've just posted 45 million in trailing 12-month revenue. I think when I was here last year, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think I said something like, we can achieve about 40 million or over 40 million. So in that regard, anyways, we accomplished our objectives. I kind of give ourselves maybe a grade of like, it was a year ago. So we're always striving for 10 out of 10, of course, but we have achieved positive EBITDA and positive operating cash flow on a sustainable basis. And then, of course, in addition to our growing product revenue, that's capital equipment sales, we've also have some really sticky recurring services revenue. So when people hear the word MRI, which I'm just using as sort of a label to convey what we do in essence, most people think that means, okay, we're a medical device company or a life sciences company. And although we do sell to pharma and biotech companies, and as I mentioned, we have a grand vision to have really cool, small, smart, AI-driven MRI devices for human beings in the future, today we're not a medical devices company. We're not a life sciences company. People come up to me and ask me that. So what are we? Well, we're a scientific instrumentation company. And if you want to look at some large scientific, for example, is a $100 billion market cap company trading on the NASDAQ, Agilent, sort of similar story. These companies tend to trade at very high multiples because they have very strong economic moats. Mostly because of their intellectual property, but also because of their customer service relationships that kind of entrenches them with their customers. And so that's the type of company we aspire to be one day. I always say I want to be a billion-dollar company with 50% product sales and 50% service revenues, like all of these companies have. So it's products and services working together. Our multiples aren't that great right now. Most of the stocks on TSX Venture Exchange in Canada haven't been doing very well for the last couple of years, probably because everybody's really enthralled with Bitcoin and gold and so on. But things change over time, and we believe that as we continue to generate more and more positive cash flow, that there's a huge upside in our stock. Scientific instrumentation is a great market to be in. Over $75 billion per year is spent on this type of equipment in various verticals. We feel like our TAM is several $billion per year and growing as part of that larger pie. In terms of the competitive landscape, so it would be companies like Magritech is our arch competitor, similar size to us, but they don't have the sticky recurring services revenue, which is advantage to us because in a lot of cases, customers like that we have service capabilities and we're growing that business globally. The large companies like Siemens and General Electric and Philips don't really think of us as part of their competition today, but in the future, they will. We sell direct in the United States and parts of Europe and Canada. In international markets, we sell through a network of local dealers that I established myself many years ago, and we continue to train them and improve their performance. And then part of our growth strategy is to white label our products to vertical specific partners, and we're really excited about that potential in the future. Verticals that are difficult for us to penetrate on our own, like the food vertical, for example. That's part of our growth strategy going forward. Really proud to announce a new member of our management team, and his name is Mark Tomlinson. And essentially what's happened there is several years ago, we made an acquisition that was tightly coupled to this large service contract that we won. And recently, some of the progress on that particular service contract stalled to some extent. So we kind of removed that regime that we took on when we acquired this company back in 2022, and we've replaced the upper management led by Mark Tomlinson. We're really ecstatic about the addition of Mark. He has about 30 years in strategic operations management experience. About 10 part of his job was to buy missiles and F-15s and all the weapon systems that NATO countries wanted. He set up an e-commerce system for that back in before e-commerce was cool. And so really ecstatic about him, and we expect him to have some pretty substantial impacts on the gross margins associated with that business, and to grow it globally. So that's a new change since the last time we met. In terms of our market cap, on a VWAP basis over 30 days, our stock is about 30 cents. It's not there right now, but that corresponds to about a market cap of 33 million, which again is less than trailing 12-month revenues. So we posted in the fourth quarter, very proud to say, 1.8 million in positive EBITDA. And so we think that projects very well for the potential of cash flow generation for our company in 2025 and 2026. And again, as I mentioned, trailing 12-month revenue of 45 million. Senior independent board of directors. This is the slide that I won't spend too much time on today because I know everybody here has seen it, but it's to emphasize that there's a connection between the fundamental math and physics associated with the MRI machines that exist in hospitals and the cute little portable machines that we sell for about $100,000 to pharma companies and food companies. Technologies are the same. This is a look at our complete product portfolio. You can see the price points of alluding here to our growing services industry. It's important to note that we're not just a hardware company. That might have been the focus at the beginning, but just like a lot of successful hardware companies, now software and AI and those things are just as important. All of our technology is patent protected. We do our own proprietary manufacturing in our facility in Calgary to protect our intellectual property, control of quality, and control of gross margins. And again, the future of MRI is not just creating an image, right? X-rays can create images. Even ultrasound can create images. The reason why MRI is so important is because the fundamental physics of it has a potential to analyze human cells. We're already doing molecular analysis and cellular analysis in the industrial world. And one day, MRI machines are going to be able to detect abnormalities in human tissue without the requirement of a radiologist to do the analysis, and then more so in the future. We've accomplished a lot of exciting things. We're fully vertically integrated. It's not just final assembly, but full-blown proprietary manufacturing processes and AI software technology. And we've got an exciting catalyst coming forward down the pipe. So I just want to re-emphasize that it's the way to think of our company in the future is products and services working together. So in some vertical markets, like pharma, we'll lead with our proprietary products and then be able to say to our customers, by the way, we can service you globally. We have a full goals like security. We'll lead with our service capabilities and then bring in our proprietary products and say things like, not only can we service your X-ray machines and your swab machines in airports and border crossings and consulates and so on, but we also have portable MRI machines that can analyze pills, analyze suspicious white powders for deadly synthetic opioids, which magnetic resonance is the best thing by far to detect those kinds of dangerous molecules. So that's the vision for how products and services work together. I always like to highlight this large contract win and just emphasize that we've achieved profitability on a sustainable basis going forward with this. We'll grow this business beyond just the specific contract using our great customer, CATSA, which is the Canadian version of the TSA in the United States, as a reference going forward. And right now our focus is on expanding profit margins. So this is a little bit of a 6-quarter track record in terms of how we've done with achieving positive EBITDA. As many of you know, EBITDA is a proxy for charges and things like that, which get incorporated into net income. So most people don't know this, but you could have a company that's positive net income, right, but actually not generating positive cash. And that's why a lot of financial analysts like to look at EBITDA, because it's a better proxy for cash. It's not to say that net income isn't important as well, but this is quite an accomplishment in my opinion. At one point not that long ago, we were burning boatloads of cash, but that's just not the case anymore. So I'm about to do what has become a little bit of a tradition at Breck's event here, and that's to give you some insight into our budget. So I'm almost going to pretend like you're in an analysis management meeting here. And please remember, the objective is I'm a spirit of the law guy, not a letter of the law guy, like as in Merchants of Venice and pound of flesh kind of thing. So please accept the spirit of this information. And I'm going to take you right inside an analysis management meeting. Everything I am saying is fully consistent with what I say in the public domain every day. I'm just presenting it in a way that's sort of maybe unique to Breck's event. I want to just say that our number one priority now is expanding profit margins. So we're not trying to grow top line by any means. We'll continue to grow revenue in our top line, but we're not going to do it at all costs. And we're going to focus in on expanding profit margins. As I mentioned, we have made some substantial changes to leadership on our services group. Again, some legacy issues associated with the previous acquisition. And so that'll take a couple of quarters to really get firing on all cylinders there. We continue to keep downward pressure on costs. And I know I've been saying this for several years now, because we've been doing it in an orderly fashion. We did quite a few acquisitions a few years ago, and we really wanted to take care of those assets and make sure we don't damage technologies that we've acquired and so on. But probably until mid or even the end of 2026, pressure on costs. I also want to point out that in order to get that large service contract where we had to hire about 140 people in 6 months and scale across about 89 airports, we did take out a standard term loan from our commercial bank. So no like exotic senior debt or anything like that. We pay 7.5% interest on that. So it's prime plus 2, and interest rates have been kind of going down a little bit. I'm proud to say we've paid it down from 10 million to 6.5 million, and that's done by about 208,000 in principal every single month, with about 60,000 in interest payments each month, and those payments go down a little bit as the principal lessens. So basically every year we're paying $3.1 million to our commercial bank. So, and we continue to do that. Okay, so this is a glimpse at how we sort of see our company. And remember, this isn't sort of in the context of like some big blue sky event that could happen, that could, double revenue if the partnership comes online. This is more in the context of like, okay, how do we communicate with our bank, right? And how do we do cash flow planning? So we feel that these are realistic. Just like last year, I said I would do about 40 million, and I ended up doing about 45 million. So, we think that these numbers are beatable, but this is just a glimpse into how we're operating our company right now in a very conservative fashion, with the green bars representing top line. and then this turquoise line representing the growth in our positive EBITDA, which again is a proxy for cash flow. So this again is a look at how we feel like we're going to continue to progress in terms of some historical actuals. So we did about 2.8 million in calendar year 2024 of positive EBITDA, going from terrible losses the year before that, and so we think this is a reasonable trajectory that we're on and that is fully sustainable. In terms of actual operating cash flow, and then sort of the holy grail, which is free cash flow, right? Free cash flow to shareholders is one way to think about it. This is the trajectory that we're on, again, in a realistic, sustainable way, and you can see that we're continuing to ramp up our free cash flow capability. And then ultimately, this will result in accumulation of cash. So I'm sort of projecting flat cash balance from now to the end of 2026. We think we can beat that. The sort of emphasis there is that we intend to be able to pay off our term loan before its maturity, and then that's when we really start to accumulate cash on our balance sheet and so on. But again, we're going to try to do better than this. But this is a realistic example of what we discuss in our management meetings and what we convey to our board. So some of you noticed that in, how am I doing on time, Breck? Okay, I'm getting to the end of the slide. So some of you may have noticed that even though we posted really strong operating cash flow in Q4 and indeed throughout 2024, and also positive EBITDA, but we also had some non-cash charges, and I just wanted to explain those a little bit. So in 2022, we invested in a Swiss company called Quad Systems with world-class scientists, and this gentleman here, Dr. Clemens Kessler, is the founder and CEO of Quad Systems, one of the companies that makes the very large magnetic resonance systems for industrial analysis, called Bruker Corporation, which is a very large American and German company. Dr. Clemens Kessler may have been even the most consequential R&D executive at Bruker Corporation over about a 20-year period. Several years ago, he left that company to found Quad, and then we invested in that company. We now own 38% of it. And they did have some sort of classic R&D delays in getting a product to market. They do have a product to market now. And one of their modules is our technology that we also have in our benchtop products. But I just wanted to say that the majority of the non-cash charges that we took in Q4, which made net income look worse than sort of operations would indicate, is because our auditors decided with our CFO to write off this investment. But I have to say that from an engineer's perspective and from a tech entrepreneur's perspective, the company's more valuable today than when we invested in it, despite the accounting non-cash charge. And I'll let you sort of decide that for yourself, but I'll point to a couple items. They just received 1.5 million Swiss francs at a valuation of approximately 20 million. So, that to me is evidence that the company is in fact worth when somebody's writing a check. And then the other part of it is that it's also a fact that they have commercially viable product that they're selling in the market today when we invested them in the past, they did not. So really optimistic about this, and my original intentions with this company, which is to acquire all of it at some point in the future, remains unchanged. So a couple of independent research reports that I'll cite here that have some price targets of around $1. If you ever wanted to reach out to them, these are not paid reports. These are fully independent, arm's length, on the other side of the Chinese wall reports, and happy to talk about them and their rationale if you'd be interested in the future. So that's the end of my presentation, and I know most of you are probably familiar with what we've been doing, and I know you're probably disappointed in the stock price, as am I. But I just wanted to say that I'm very confident in the future of our operations, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished over, let's say, the last 6 quarters.
Give it up for Sean. Sean, I always invite you because I like your honesty when things go a little less well than expected. So I hope you can give me a straight answer on one concern I still have. I think the business model is great, your margins are good, but there seems to be a problem with the pressure on the stock. We have a market cap of 30 million, you have a revenue of about 10. So my opinion is that the reason we don't see the multiples has to do with some legacy issues of a former shareholder. I'm referring to the K-Prime situation.
Yeah.
How many shares does this gentleman still want to sell? And what would be your best plan to get rid of that problem?
So it's him and a couple of his friends that invested because he was associated with the company, and collectively they currently own about 5 million shares. Right, so at the current stock price, that's about 1.5 million Canadian dollars, right, which is about 1 million euros. So that's sort of the size of that block that wants to sell. One of the challenges has been is communicating with this person to try to buy the block. So every time we do that, they ask for a premium. The people that were interested in buying that wanted a discount. And then he goes dark on us for a couple of months, and then the cat and mouse game begins again. So we have about 114 million outstanding shares. So, 5 million shares is less than 5%. So it's not a huge amount of our float, but under the current market conditions for microcap, tech stocks, that sort of selling pressure has been the problem. So, I don't control the macro environment and on the stock exchange in Canada and the United States. All I can do is continue to generate positive cash flow and really work hard to get to a point where one day our company could start a share buyback program and get rid of all this problem once and for all.
That was the idea I had yesterday. Why don't you, if you're paying down the 10 million that you needed for the CATSA expansion, that's now the biggest repayment issue. I think the cash flow is good enough to go to your banker and say, I need another, how many millions would we need to pay back these guys?
Approximately 1 million euros. It's not a lot.
Give them their premium, man, and then the downward pressure can go away.
Yeah.
Because now the retail guys can come in, but they would just be, you can look at it two ways. You could say, well, as long as the pressure is downward, we can accumulate. That's what we did with Lightwave Logic for years. For years, they sold a stock to, what was it, Lincoln Park, and then Lincoln Park could only hold 5% of Lightwave Logic in their portfolio, and they always had to, it was a downward pressure, and I told people for years, accumulate. That's one way to look at it. But we have been in this company for, well, quite a lot of time, and I would appreciate it if you could talk in the board about the idea of buying back the shares as a company, not individuals outside of the company, but a buyback program already, because I think that would give a dynamic to the stock, and when the stock goes up, you can always do a private placement within 1 year when the stock is at 1.2. I think, do you consider that to be a viable plan?
I do. Right now, we're just focusing on strengthening our balance sheet, right? It wasn't that long ago when we had negative gross margins on the contract. So it's just a matter of time, right? And so I can't give you like a specific date as to when I think that becomes
just an
feasible.
idea.
But from a philosophical perspective, we're totally on the same page.
Okay, that's why you are here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Questions? 2 questions, and then we can go to, from the chat room, there's a question.
Teun vraagt, zijn deze aandelen te koop via bijvoorbeeld de Giro?
If the stocks can be bought in the Giro, I guess they can be bought anywhere. They're on the Nasdaq, there, okay.
We also trade on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as well. My understanding is that in Belgium and Netherlands, the investors here are pretty sophisticated and prefer to buy on the primary exchange, which is the TSX Venture Exchange, but you can buy on OTC in the United States and also on Frankfurt.
Just imagine that the downward pressure is gone on the stock. I think with the margins that you're pulling, I really think we can go to $1. That would mean like a tripling the value we have today. So
Agreed.
That would be very nice.
Agreed.
Another question?
Bernard vraagt een voorzichtige inschatting van de aandelenprijs.
Well, we just did that. Some estimates on forward guidance, but you gave that, so that's
Yeah.
an answered question.
To be honest, the entire TSX Venture Exchange in Canada for microcap tech stocks has not been doing very well, right? And so in that regard, we're no different than a lot of those companies. So I'm just focused in on the business fundamentals, and that I believe that one day, that will be fairly valued. But I'm just hunkered down trying to build a real business, and I'm just as disappointed as everybody else on our stock price.
Yeah, we could also do a private placement with the community to give you that 2 million, and then go to the guy and say, get lost.
Well, again, don't take this too literally, but as a bit of a Heisenberg-Einstein thought experiment, which I kind of like to do once in a while. Right now we pay to our bank $3.1 million per year, and our bank is providing no value to us. I would much prefer, and I'm not sure what the right mechanism would be, but I would much prefer paying $3.1 million per year to all of you somehow. In other words,
The convertible, for instance.
if you were able to hold that debt that we have, and you also have significant, as a group,
Upside.
significant equity positions, then again, I would much rather pay you the money that we're paying to the bank every single year. So just something to think about, but
I think I'll visit Calgary
you're welcome
anytime
anytime, Breck, please.
to make a deal. Good. I think maybe
Yeah.
one more question by
I've lived
Baptiste.
in Calgary for 2 years. I used to go to the Stampede, skiing in Banff, great.
Wonderful.
You guys are based in Calgary, right?
We're headquartered, yeah.
Yeah, so I missed the beginning of your presentation. Please, again, what is the amount of the outstanding shares right now?
114 million.
114 million.
Million,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So about a $30 million market cap,
Okay.
Canadian dollars.
Okay.
So that's 20 million euros.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Good. It's 4 o'clock. Sean, thank you very much. I hope you'll be back next year. Let's see how this evolves. I have a good feeling about this. Congratulations with becoming EBITDA positive. And I think you'll manage to make it even more positive with your efforts. A big applause for Sean, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Brick.